Hi everyone! Today I wanted to share with you a chapter from Last Gate of the Emperor by Kwame Mbalia and Prince Yoel Makonnen. Once there was an empire that stretched across the galaxy. Yared Heywat lives an isolated life in Addis Prime, a hardscrabble city without much to do. His worrywart Uncle Moti and bionic lioness Besa are his only family. But Yared is also a star player in the underground augmented reality game, The Hunt for Kaleb's Obelisk. When a change in the game rules prompts him to log in with his real name, however, it triggers an attack that rocks the city. In the chaos, Uncle Moti disappears. Suddenly, all the stories Yared's uncle told him are coming to life, of empires in the sky and city-raising monsters, and somehow Yared is at the center of them. Together with Besa and the Ibis, a game rival turned reluctant ally, Yared must search for his uncle, along with answers to his place in a forgotten galaxy-spanning war. So here's Chapter 1 of Last Gate of the Emperor. Audio transcript file number 2132.019. Location: undisclosed detention facility. Subject: Yared, last name redacted for security. Auditor: Now then, start from the beginning. Again, for the third time, state your name for the audio file. Me: Yared. Auditor: Full name? Me: Yared, redacted. Auditor: Me: Listen, I didn't name myself. If I did, my last name would be The Great, one word and a number. Auditor: Me: I even tried to change my name at school. They wouldn't let me. Ask them. Auditor: We have. Speaking of, we pulled your school records. And me: Perfect, right? Stellar student, incredibly smart with tons of potential. Auditor: You barely attend class. Me: Auditor: Me: What? No way. I go to class all the time, right there at, Auditor: Addis Prime Primary? Me: Exactly, Addis Prime Primary. Good old AP squared. That's what we call it for short, AP squared. Auditor: Enough of these games, boy. You will start telling us everything you know. Me: Oh, that's easy. I've got top marks in my class. My history teacher said my presentation was absolutely incredible. In fact, if not for the weird creature that nearly destroyed half the city, my presentation would have been the most exciting thing to happen all day. Auditor: Finally. Let's talk about that. Me: My presentation? Gladly. Auditor: No, the Mon. Me: It started like this. Chapter 1. Once there was an empire that stretched across the galaxy. Great, noble, wardens of peace and good fortune. They spread wealth and technology throughout the stars. This empire was called Axum. When Axumite ships landed in a new star system and made contact with the residents, they offered to teach them, to bring them into the empire, sharing their knowledge and power. That was how their empire continued to grow. All sentient races and species were invited, and though some did refuse, many accepted. But of those that accepted entry into the empire, there was one that grew jealous. These people coveted Axum's technology, for they came from a barren planet whose resources had been exhausted, and they longed to take to the stars to find new riches to exploit. But they didn't want to share, they wanted to rule. They were called the Warari. The Warari bided their time, waiting until Axum was distracted with the Emperor and Empress's new baby, and then they struck. Using stolen Axumite technology, they conquered one peaceful planet after another. Planets, space stations, asteroid colonies, the Warari enslaved them all, then continued across the galaxy like unstoppable conquerors. And to help, they unleashed a terrible monster, a creature of such hatred and violence that none could stand in its way. Its name was the Bulgu. But the Emperor and Empress of Axum fought back. Their bodyguards were the legendary mythical, unparalleled warriors who wielded curved shodels wreathed in black flame. The mythical were fierce, They fought like demons with incredible speed and power. The Aksumite army, the living flames of the burning legion, defended their nation until the bitter end. And it was a bitter end. Just when it looked like Aksum would prevail, a traitor, someone known and loved by the royal family, robbed them of their source of strength, the power that let the mighty nation travel between the stars. Aksum was trapped, and they and the Warari fell into a war of attrition. It was a stalemate. The battle stretched over months, then years, with no one really winning, but no clear loser. It is said that even today the emperor and empress still fight together with their Machenitai. They stand firm beneath the onslaught of the Bulgu. But without their source of strength, neither they nor the Warari could travel through space, and the two warring nations fell into darkness and out of history. And that's what shooting stars are, I said, looking out over the integrated virtual classroom. Whenever you see one in the night sky, it's the Machenitai and the Warari still battling high over our heads, granting you the power to reach for the sky. Thank you, Yared, came a voice from the corner. Which is why, I continued, I am asking for the Authority Net flight restrictions to be discontinued. How can we reach for the sky if our hands get zapped? Everyone deserves flying rights above the ridiculous 10-meter limit. There are hundreds of drones just waiting to harass kids like me. It's despicable. Yared, Miss Marjani warned. Seriously, who do they think they are? How are we supposed to make it to school on time if the streets are clogged in the mornings and a dutiful student can't fly a sky sail over them? Does the authority hate school? The lights in the classroom came on, and I blinked twice. Miss Marjani, one of my favorite teachers actually, frowned at me as she walked to the front of the class. Even though it looked crowded, only 12 of the 75 students attending the lecture were physically present. It was the strangest thing, and I'd only been at Addis Prime Primary for a month, so it took some getting used to. Well, let me take that back. The school itself was cool. Addis Prime Primary had been converted from an old factory overlooking a giant lake just inside New Oromia, the largest city on the space colony Addis Prime. Massive conveyor belts ran through huge vaulted tunnels underground to the shopping district, and utility drones buzzed in and out throughout the day, picking up supplies for the school. Do you know what that means? That means if someone was so inclined, they could hitch a ride on a floating metal bug the size of a cow and take it all the way to the largest collection of goods and delicacies this side of the galaxy. If they were so inclined. I would never do that, not during school hours, even if the most important game tournament in my life was taking place in that shopping district in less than an hour. No, that would be irresponsible. Rules, you know. At my old school on the other side of the colony, every student had to attend, no matter how far away they lived. Here, the majority of students were virtual. They were represented by drones, or, if their families could afford it, holographic displays. Sometimes even the teachers were virtual. Unfortunately, not Miss Marjani. She marched silently forward, passing through two small beetle-like drones, Haji and Kofi, that were wrestling in midair. She ignored them and stopped in front of me. Absolutely incredible, she said. Thank you, I said, smiling. It is absolutely incredible that you decided to give a presentation with no historical basis or relevancy. I mean, honestly, Yared, did you even do the research? I asked you to present on the regional differences between New Oromia and Tigray Central, and you had a whole month. Instead, you come back with fairy tales? This is history, and I worked so hard on it. I sat with my Uncle Moti every night for a week, pulling that story out of him. Do you know how many sambusas I had to fry? How many cups of tea I had to pour for him? My fingers are going to smell like oil and honey for a month. The class laughed. Mrs. Marjani pointed at my workstation. Sit, she said, squeezing the single word through gritted teeth. As I walked back to my seat, Haji's drone buzzed over and sat on my shoulder. Way to go, Yared, came a tiny voice. The drone's speaker was barely audible. She looks like she's ready to explode. I thought you said you were going to give a presentation so good she'd let you go home early. The game starts in 45 minutes. If you're late, the admins will. I flicked the drone aside. He didn't need to tell me how important the upcoming game was. His #1 ranking wasn't on the line. I know, trust me. I've got this. Any second now. Miss Marjani was still lecturing me from the front of the class. And if you applied an ounce of effort to your studies instead of your ridiculous exploits, you might actually pass this class and others. But the story, I began to say. Is not true, Miss Marjani snapped. Was it just me, or did she look angrier than I've ever seen her? Or maybe nervous? But I couldn't linger on that too long. She was still lecturing me. And I am not putting up with your shenanigans today. Report to independent study. I expect a full, revised presentation on the history of Addis Prime by tomorrow morning. Dismissed. The rest of you, screens out. Please load the holovid labeled 2019A. Everyone groaned. A few people shot angry glares my way. I didn't meet their eyes. This was my 4th school in 2 years, and it looked like I'd spend my time here like I did at all the others. Alone. Independent study was in a large room in the center of the school equipped with study pods, so students could focus on exams or final projects. It was silent as a crypt, and the only door was monitored by Secura drones that would set off an alarm if they caught you trying to sneak out. However, the study hall also happened to be right next to one of the underground conveyor tunnels, with multiple windows overlooking the entrance. I hid a smile as I gathered up my things. I may not have made any friends yet, but I was closer to fame and glory. This afternoon, when everyone found out who I really was, my name would be written in the stars. I winked at Haji's drone and walked out of class. I loved this school. So that is part of Chapter 1 of Last Gate of the Emperor by Kwame Mbalia and Prince Yoel Makonnen. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.